And so, let's go a little deeper into what is happening in relational dynamics that feel unhealthy. So, even when we have awareness that we are somehow creating and allowing relational dynamics that feel unhealthy to be happening, we can feel stuck to just leave. And we want to look at what is really happening to be able to come to the stillness, the silence of the awareness, and observe what is happening. So this will relate to the needs met structure, that we have learned to get our needs met in a certain way, even if that way of getting our needs met is unhealthy, because in the young life, it may be that our survival mechanism and our way of maintaining connection and feeling safe within a certain dynamic might have meant that we acted out within that dynamic something that meets our needs at that time, but is not necessarily healthy. And we can carry that through the life and create relationships that continue to mirror that and express that same dynamic, because there's some way that our needs are being met in that. But as we open and deepen into the remembrance of being and the remembrance of love, we outgrow dynamics that are not rooted in true love and that are not essentially clear and free. Where there is entanglement, we will start to feel constraint. So yes, the consciousness, the impersonal consciousness, is creating the dynamic. It is creating it in the play of life so that we have the possibility of seeing something that we wouldn't otherwise see, and also feeling the feelings that we wouldn't otherwise be able to feel. But when that keeps looping or repeating, we start to realize, what is going on here? Why am I allowing this? Why am I staying in this situation? What am I not willing to see? What am I not willing to face? How is this somehow meeting my needs? How is this actually useful to me? And it takes an extraordinary honesty to be able to see that there must be some way that our needs are being met, but they're not the truth and the clarity of who we are. They're an old, conditioned and protective set of needs being met. And we have outgrown that. We don't need that system in place anymore. And yet, in order to go beyond the boundaries of the conditionings and the protections, it takes a lot of courage to come to a very clear honesty. It requires being aware as the aware being and looking upon the whole situation with the light of awareness, the pure light of awareness that just sees. And in that illumination, the possibility to see, how is this serving me somehow in some way of getting attention, being seen, acting out something, keeping me safe, even though it's a false sense of safety, keeping a sense of connection, even though it's not true connection, just to illuminate what that needs met structure might be. And the honesty to see that allows us to illuminate that that needs met structure is actually outdated, and yet it's habitual within our learned patterning to play something out, to keep ourselves small. Now the purpose of it is to be able to free it. It's actually to be able to free it. And it gets freed by illuminating and seeing in the clear light what the needs met structure is that is now outdated. That when we come to insight, illuminated insight, and we stop denying a part of ourselves, we see honestly how something is serving us. We have a greater availability of the presence of being and the light that we are in truth to be able to meet the fear that it takes to go deeper. So of course, when we sit with this, we're going to find, as we open to see what's really going on, as we open to it, we're going to meet some kind of emotion or trigger or charge or stirring or resistance or fear in the nervous system. And it's actually that we need to release the stress, the old stress that's held in the nervous system. It's like a pattern in consciousness that just keeps looping and repeating until we release it and free it. And the freeing of that pattern happens when we allow whatever is in that pattern, that holding pattern, to be met in the presence of love, in the presence of a finer frequency that is welcoming and allowing, like a true acceptance, a true openness, so that we can actually allow the feelings to come forward. Now, it can feel hard to be with the feelings that we meet, because we can meet here some deep fear, we can meet some sadness, deep old sadness that's been pushed down, and we can also meet anger and frustration, or we can meet shock and fear and anxiety held in the nervous system. And in order to be with these feelings, it can be useful to recognize that the feelings that are in this limited pattern are like a child, we could say. So the mind and the story around this and these feelings is like a child. It's like a frozen child. It's, we could say, the inner child, or the child that lived the young human life. And the being is like the parent. The presence of awareness is like the great, radiant, perfect parent, let's say. And it's about allowing the child to be seen and held in the loving presence of that great, shining parent, while the old feelings are allowed to express. And this could also mean that there might come forward some expression in words that might seem like a story. And here we're not speaking about identifying with the story or believing the story, but just listening as the welcoming presence of this kind, benevolent, patient parent. Just listening. What does this little voice say? What does the voice of this pattern of limitation, of fear or stress or anger say? What does this place want to express? And in the expressing of this, there can be an incredible freeing of an old pattern and old stress. So when we open to see that needs met structure, and how somehow a situation that we're allowing or we're creating in a relational dynamic, it's serving us somehow. How is it serving us? And when we open to see how it's serving us, we also open to notice, is there any emotion or stickiness or charge around this? We're actually wanting to find the place that is sticky and allow a freeing of that emotion. Now, sometimes it can feel scary and unsafe to allow that emotion to come forward. And in such a situation, we would perhaps need some support or companionship or facilitation to allow that deeply held emotionality to be able to stir. But sometimes we can access it in this way that we're speaking of here, by recognizing that the being is undisturbed by anything that happens. And so we've almost got this parent-child situation happening in our inner functioning that allows us to access, and for this child to say, I'm afraid, I don't know how to do this. I'm angry, I'm really angry, or I'm really, really sad and frustrated, and I don't know how to work with this. I don't know, I don't feel safe. Whatever it wants to say, that we can let this inner voice be expressed in the presence of love. And it can be very surprising what this inner voice will bring forward when that part of us that is tangled up feels that it has the presence and loving openness to express into. So this is not about analyzing within the psychological realm of the mind. In a way, it's about allowing the mind and a holding pattern to let go into the heart. It's about allowing a tangled pattern of mind that can play as a story that we're running through and trying to solve and fix and work out how to change this. How do I change this relationship? How do I make it more healthy? Or how do I leave it? How do I face the fear and resistance that is here around it? And opening, instead of trying to plan or understand how to fix it, we open to the wider presence of being, and we allow everything to transmute and surface in the wide open space of heart, where everything is allowed, all expression is allowed, all feelings are allowed, everything that's here is allowed in a wide openness of being that is not disturbed or touched, has no agenda at all, or judgment or opinion. And so everything that is here is just given absolute radiant permission to be here. And in this, you can start to meet parts of yourself that have been frozen in time in the presence of the timeless being. You can start to meet places that have been holding this needs-met structure as a protection and as a false sense of safety. In the presence of a true safety, the child can let go into a holding embrace of the true, perfect parent, which is perfect love, clear love, open love, unconditional love. And so this little process within our inner functioning can be very potent to free emotions that are stuck and pushed down and hidden. And sometimes it can feel hard to access it. You can feel that it's there and you can't quite access it. And in such a situation, it is to be patient with it, to not force it, and to not impose any ideas of the mind upon how this should look or be. It can just be to start saying exactly what's here. I feel upset. I feel a pain in my heart. I feel like there's something stuck. I feel some heat arising. I feel a sensation in my throat. I feel a heaviness. Oh, I feel a charge. And when you feel the charge, open to the charge. What is the charge? The charge is energy. The charge is feeling very stirring and alive. Keep opening to the charge. Oh, the charge is some kind of frustration. It's something big is opening. To just speak in a very simple way that is the fact of the moment. Just saying what is here will guide and allow what is here to surface. So you just allow what is surfacing. And for some beings, to express this out loud, just privately while you're by yourself, can be very potent. It can be supportive sometimes to set a voice recorder so you're not trying to think about what's happening. You're just letting it come forward, and you can listen afterwards so that you can allow a certain freedom. And for some beings, this process can work more smoothly by writing down what is happening. And you will know what is a way that feels true to you. And don't have expectations. Don't have ideas of the mind of what needs to happen, because in order for there to be a true safety in this unfolding, it has to happen naturally and incrementally as there is a sense of true safety. Before opening to anything, feel the feelings, let awareness touch everything. Let all the information of the moment come forward in the presence of awareness. Be aware. Recognize you are the awareness that's aware, the aware being. Is the presence of being here? Is the presence of love here? Can you feel that which is not disturbed? When you can, then start to look upon. Make sure that the presence of being feels very alive. Or we could say the presence of the Mother, or the presence of God, the presence that is sacred and untouched, has a particular refined frequency. Allow this frequency to be here, and then look upon as awareness whatever is discordant. Be very aware of not going into the mind to look upon it, and look upon it in the moment, here now, very fresh, just expressing exactly what's here, just expressing what is naturally here. And let that expression be the breadcrumbs that you follow, the natural cues that are here. And it can be sensations and feelings in the body. It can be emotional feelings. It can be images that you see. It can be thoughts that come. Just to be the witnessing awareness of it all, but to let the expression of it be like these guiding breadcrumbs that you follow, because you're following the breadcrumbs deeper into your own heart. You're following deeper into a holding pattern that is ready to reveal itself and surface. So just allowing this exploration to carry you honestly and openly into the possibility of seeing with a clearer eye of truth, the eye of awareness, clear vision, to be able to see, and in the openness of being and the wideness of true heart, allowing this child to be held and heard and seen. And it's amazing how this child will surrender protections and give up the sense of a limited patterning that needs met structure, that feeling of lack or something is wrong with me is all hidden in here. And when it's met in the place that knows, I am whole and free and true and clear and open here as the being. You know the place that is whole. You know the place that is not lacking in any way. And this allows you to meet the residual places where there can be belief and protection. It's just to open to it all. And in this process, we may also come across some beliefs that we have, and it's to allow those beliefs, those deep limiting beliefs that we can be holding, to find out, what are you making it mean about yourself? You know, part of this needs met structure and this deep story that there is something wrong with you, and the shame and the guilt that can be present, can stop us just really allowing a clear seeing of these patterns. But when we see these patterns as the aware being, we can start to see, what are you making this mean about you? What is your belief about yourself? It might come forward, well, the belief is that I'm bad. The belief is that I'm going to lose love. The belief is that I'm not actually lovable. The belief is that I'm broken. The belief is that nobody is ever going to love me. The belief is that I'm going to be alone. The belief is that I'm not worthy of love, right? So we start opening to discover, and there will often be emotion that comes when we recognize a core limiting belief that is in there. So just opening to this possibility. The most important part is opening to this as the aware being, as the presence that is the presence of love, and allowing all that is here to be felt and seen and received in the openness. Let this moment be total openness, where everything is allowed, and see what happens, see what surfaces, see what comes forward and transmutes, see what releases, and find out a little more intimacy with your own heart. Allow the mind and the story that is running the show as a needs-met structure to drop into the presence of a loving heart, and find out what can happen and how relationships can transform. And of course, it does take courage to allow transformation to happen. It takes a courage to speak truly and honestly to our companions. And it takes courage to know when something wants to change and it's time to let go. Of course, we want to meet our own emotions and stresses, old stresses in the situation first. But when we are rooted in the heart and the being, to move truly from this place is going to carry us deeper into clarity, release old structures that no longer serve, and true movement is always true for all beings. Or it will allow us to communicate more honestly and to transform relationships, to possibly be more deeply rooted in love and clarity, rather than being rooted in fear and old needs-met structures. To meet the fear, to truly meet the fear, is the way to come to a deeper intimacy with your own heart. And in truth, this is the relationship that we are longing for, is a deeper intimacy and remembering of union with your own heart. The union with your own heart is the remembrance and intimacy with the one heart, with the love that you are. It is a remembrance of true intimacy and true union with all that is. And this is essentially what we are truly longing for, and we are acting out in relationships, longing for this truth, and yet moving in dynamics that can feel unhealthy, in order to free us from what is allowing that to happen, so that we can remember the love that we are, the intimacy with our own heart, and live deeper in the clarity of the knowing of the love that we are, and the unified field of the one love, where all beings are one heart, one love, one essential being. So just exploring and seeing what you find as the light of awareness, the wide, open heart